contrastingly, it's lower in the low composition sector. And this is what Marx is positing as the mechanism of equalization of the rate of profit across the two sectors. So in this case, both sectors would get the same rate of profit, which would be 12.5%. Now, there is a point here which I've commented on before, and again, it's another example of it. If you look at the rate of surplus value of these two sectors, it's higher in sector 2 than it is in sector 1. The workers in sector 2 are paid less than the workers in sector 1. The wage rate is lower by whatever that will be, something like 30% lower, okay? However, if you look at the profit against wages, then it would appear that the workers in sector 1 are more exploited than the workers in sector 2. Okay, because why is that? Because the amount of profit per worker is greater in sector 1 than in sector 2. So you get an apparent rate of exploitation which will decrease in the low organic composition of capital sector and will increase in the high organic composition of capital sector. And again, I'm just repeating the story, working through a second example here, country B, period 2, okay? So when the profit rate equalization modifies prices of production, what you have is the surplus value in a sector diverges from the profit realized in it. And there is a switch in the apparent degree of exploitation across the two sectors. Now, in period 3, this is just for completeness, really. But what you can see here, this is country A in period 3. Most of its investment is still in the first sector. So something like 3/4 is still in the first sector and only a quarter is in the second sector. Its profit rate is at 7.5%. Even though these workers produce 60% of the total surplus value, right? Now, I've missed a slide here. If you look at sector case study B, period 3, what you'll find is much more investment in this sector, in sector 2. And that's the reason for its overall average rate of profit is at 15%. So I'm coming now towards the end of the lecture. And what I want to, because of time really, but also because they are genuine points of discussion, one point of discussion is, given the scenario which I've presented, which does directly come from Marx's presentation, I've given you two different cases sort of operating in parallel. So what is the total social capital? Is it the total social capital within one value regime, case A or case B, or across these two regimes? Or even, can we talk of a total social capital within them if the rates of profit don't tend to equalize? So there's sort of three potential answers to that question. Secondly, look at what's gone on there. My slides have gone crazy. What I'm going to do is, that's my second case, period 3. I just had a problem with my last slide, obviously. I'm just going to switch in my last slide in a second. Just bear with me. I'll just bring up the other version of this last slide so we can all read it. I'm going to stop sharing and then bring up another picture to share, okay, which is this one. I'll share that one. And that will allow me to come to my last slide without the distorting effect of whatever happened there. Okay, so one of the questions is, what is the total social capital? Another question is, why is country B's rate of profit higher than country A's? Well, the reason I've already given, and I won't leave this an open question, I'll tell you the answer to this one, it's because country B invested more in the low organic composition, high rate of surplus value sector. That's how it got a higher rate of profit. Now then, given this was the case, how can country A restore its rate of profit? There's not one answer to this question. There are at least two answers with two clear historical precedents. Country A, remember, has got a 7.5% rate of profit, and country B has ended up with a 15% rate of profit. What is country A going to do about it? Okay. The next question is, can you have different degrees of equalization? Does all of the surplus value produced in sector 2 need to go back into sector 1? Can you have monopolies that prevent that from happening? Well, the answer is yes, that you can. One type of monopoly Marx already explains, well, he explains it later on in volume 3, he's already aware of, which is that landowners can capture some of this higher profitability and prevent the profits being shared by all capitals. But this is a surplus profit, a form of surplus profit. So there is an invitation, if you like, to monopoly given the higher rate of profit situation. Okay. And you might want to think, well, are there other ways in which this surplus profit can be captured and not shared, right? And finally, I have used Marx's categories. I haven't actually needed to go beyond different degrees of surplus value. But what is underlying these different degrees of surplus value? What are the social relations underlying them? Well, again, I think there's very strong hints in what I've been saying. Certainly colonial relations would fit into that category without a doubt. So sector case A might have some colonies, and case B might have even more colonies or more scope for investing in its colonies, and therefore making greater use of them in terms of maintaining its rate of profit. And that leads me to this. This is a good example where trade can become violent quite quickly. Okay, I'm sorry about the slight wobble towards the end. I can see now that this slide was out of sequence, and I don't know what I did with the points on that slide, but I hope you followed it right at the end. And I'm very happy to receive any communications on this, and we will have a discussion. Okay, thanks very much. That's the end of this week.